Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Beyond the Surface. Here, we have God-centered conversations about different situations and topics that students and young adults deal with. My name is Ryan. I'm the host of the podcast. Later, I will be joined by my co-host, Ezer. Today, Ezer and I discuss the importance of friends and how the people that we spend the most time with can shape us. Ezer and I will also offer a little bit of advice on where we can find high-quality friends and what to do if a relationship is not allowing us to grow anymore. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the conversation. All right, Ezer, so we're going to be doing the Friends podcast today, and since this topic was your idea, I'm going to kick it off with the first question and kind of shoot that over to you.
Totally, man. Go for it.
So, why is the company that you surround yourself with so important?
So the company that you surround yourself with, I've just found there are things that other people have that you don't have. You know, there's ideas, there's visions, there's advice, there's whole inventions that other people have that your heart needs. You know, God did not create us to be alone. You know, in the garden, you know, you want to know what the very first problem was? God said to Adam, "It's not good that you're alone." Made Eve to be a helper and a friend. You know, ultimately, Eve was his wife, and that was the very first marriage. But ultimately, you know, it's just an illustration that God created us to be friendly and to be communicative with other people. So I think, you know, I'm not saying that just as advocate that everybody has to be extroverts, but ultimately, you know, God created us for friendships. God created us to communicate with people and to communicate with our voices and to build each other up and to edify. A lot of that happens in the local church. That's why I love Friends in the church specifically. So on this question about, you know, why is the company you surround yourself with so important, you know, I just found that it's ultimately who you're going to become.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got so many friends, you know, and past friends who they have stumbled because of the people they were surrounding themselves with. They started speaking like them. They were acting like they did. But most importantly, they were thinking the way they did.
Right.
They viewed different issues and things in their life differently because of the people they were surrounding themselves with.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to this whole idea that the 5 people that you spend the most time with is ultimately, you know, who you're going to be like. And I think, you know, part of it is just as human nature, the more we're exposed to things, the more desensitized we get to them, the more normal it becomes. Yeah. And so when we surround ourselves with people that act a certain way, we are naturally going to become a little bit more desensitized to those ways, whether they're good or bad. It doesn't really matter, you know, and we're also, that's just going to be more normalized for us. I spent a lot of time around baseball players, and I love my baseball buddies. I got a lot of baseball friends, but, you know, athletes, especially in college, everybody wants to one-up each other. Everybody wants to be kind of the life of the party. They want to be the show. They want to be the one to get the laugh. They want to be the one to do the best, right? So it's just natural that in those settings, guys are constantly putting each other down or making fun of each other or other people, and it just became so easy to do, and it's something that I found myself doing, you know, quite a bit. And when I've taken a step back and I've had a little bit more time, you know, off of that or like away from that kind of behavior, you look back at it and you say, you know, it's okay to tease each other and have some fun once in a while for sure, but when that's kind of all you do and it's all about like, I'm going to one up this guy, I'm going to be better than this guy, about, you know, self-promotion, you just kind of look at that and you say, hey, you know, that's not exactly how I want to act. And that's something that I didn't realize until I wasn't spending so much time with them. And that's just because, you know, like I said, that was normal. I was kind of desensitized to that. It was just, I spent so much time in that environment that became easy to do. It's not even that became easy to do. That was just my second nature. Yeah. Like, that's what I went to, right? You know, the Bible tells us that as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. So when you flip that around, you know, I think like spending time with people that are uplifting and people that are positive, I think that can really shape your mindset in a positive light, right? So, you know, spending a little bit more time plugged in the church, everybody there is really, really uplifting. I mean, everybody's encouraging with just about everything. And that just makes it so much easier to have a positive mindset. You know, like so many people, it's just easy to be negative throughout the day. But when you're spending your time around people that is positive, your mindset shifts. And so I've felt the benefits of other people being encouraging to me. And so the more time you spend around that, and the more time I've spent around that, you know, the encouraging nature of these people, the more I want to be encouraging and I want to be positive. And, you know, yeah, it was cold outside today, but we had some sunshine finally, right? So like, I'm going to look at the sunshine and say, you know, yes, I'm getting my vitamin D today instead of, man, I was freezing on my way into work.
It's a change in your thought process.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we were talking a lot about like negatively how like bad friends can influence you in a bad way, but like I'm telling you, good friends are, you know, are from heaven. You know, like when God puts people in your life, man, just soak in from them, you know, and just learn from them, and you know, it's like all the bad stuff that comes from hanging around bad people. It's like flipped around it the other way. And I knew somebody from our youth group in high school, and you know, they were kind of a new believer, weren't really sure, and you know, they didn't necessarily, you know, they weren't super plugged in, you know, didn't necessarily, you know, have the fruits of the spirit. They weren't super nice. He had a vulgar mouth, you know. I was like, but what he actually was doing is that he was surrounding himself with a new circle of friends. He used to hang around with all the sports teams, his school, and then how he starts hanging around with us, you know, Jesus freaks. And like I said, you know, how your thought process begins to change, his thought process began to change, his language began to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, fast forward 1 year, and I was just kind of blown away just by how mature he's become. And I feel like he grew more in the Lord because he was spending around time with people who were with the Lord often.
Absolutely. So like I said, I spent a lot of time in the baseball sphere. In terms of school, I was really the only one that took school super seriously on the team. No. You know, wanting to go to med school. A lot of these guys are just kind of like in college to play baseball, and they don't really care about school quite as much, or they're not choosing such a rigorous major. So when my baseball career ended and I had one more year of school, the friends that I chose, or I guess not that I chose, but the friends that I started spending more time around were my med school friends that were either in medical school or were planning on going to medical school or enrolled, you know, for the upcoming year kind of thing. Yeah. And my study habits improved a lot, and I ended up having a lot more time because I was efficient with my studying. Wow. Just because, you know, that's kind of what they did. You know, they were studying, and they kind of helped me learn how to study a little bit better. And so yeah, I can definitely speak to that as well. I think that's important to surround yourself with so good people if you're you know, looking to change your habits and kind of shift your focus.
I love that. It's such a powerful story, and I know we'll get into this later on, but I just think that your story is just a testimony of hang around whoever you want to become, you know?
Yeah,
you know, find people who are ahead of you, people who are better than you, people who are doing better than you, and learn from them, and just spend time with them, man. Hey, that might mean you have to invite them out to coffee. Just
right.
Lean in and really learn from them.
So how when we kind of realize, you know, we need to shake things up with our friends or who our innermost circle is, how can we distance ourselves from relationships that may be holding us back or not allowing us to grow? And how do we do that without, you know, completely burning the bridge? Or, you know, where do we draw the line of, like, this is a relationship I just need to get out and not look back, and, you know, this is just somebody that I need to spend a little bit less time with? How do we do that? How do we discern that?
I mean, I don't think it's a good idea for you just to upfront, like, go up to them and say, hey, you know, I feel like you're not the best in my life. Gotta cut you out of my life. No, I don't think that's the right way to do it. That's kind of rude in that way, you know. Because I think even too, I think there's a little bit of gold in every single person, but you gotta. I think you really have to reevaluate your priorities and just knowing how much do you want to, you know, change yourself, and how much do you want to get over the bad habits of, you know, maybe are they joking around or talking about things that you don't want to, like, okay, I got to spend some time away from them, and let that drive you and say, okay, I gotta not spend time with them anymore.
Yeah, so I think kind of what one of the things that you're touching on is you've got to know yourself a little bit, and you've got to know your goals, right?
For sure.
And we kind of, you know, you said surround yourself with the people who are where you're at or where you want to be or who are in your eyes better than you and learn from them, right? So I think in order to do that, you've got to have clear goals.
Yeah.
You know, if I didn't have the clear goal of going to med school, I don't think I would have necessarily just chosen to hang out with almost all pre-med and med students my last year in college, right?
Oh, no, yeah.
You know, my goal this year was to grow in the Lord, and so I joined a V group specifically. I joined a V group for young adult men, specifically to surround myself with more people who have similar goals or, you know, who may be ahead of me in their walk with the Lord or whatever it may be, because that was my goal. I wanted to grow in the Lord this year. And so knowing that goal allowed me to go and look for the relationships that I wanted.
And it took some stepping out on your end as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's not easy. You know, I have lots of friends, and I've got, you know, friends from all different walks of life, all different relationships with God, different goals with school, different just life goals in general, different relationship goals, you know. So yeah, I had to be intentional with that, and then I had to take the step.
You know, and to your friends who maybe you know, the people who you want to distance from, people who you're taking some hard time to evaluate that, hey, maybe they're not what I want to become. I think as Christians, we tend to be really scared to say no. Like for some reason we feel like we're gonna hurt their feelings. We feel like we're not gonna, you know, be able to share the love of Christ with them. I think we'd surprise ourselves. I've been surprised. Like just saying no isn't gonna hurt anyone. Like just saying, hey, sorry, I'm busy, or hey, sorry, I don't really have time for this anymore. I can't do those activities with you as much anymore. You know? Whether that be, I don't know, gaming, whether that be some sort of a hobby, going out and, you know, going out to eat with certain people, you know, you just don't have time for that. You like just say no. Yeah. Like, honestly.
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
For your own sake.
I definitely feel as Christians, we probably have a hard time saying no to certain or just to relationships, I guess. But I would say just in terms of people in general, it can be hard to say no, especially to people that you spent a lot of time with. And so I think, that's wise. Is sometimes, you know, you just got to step up and take on that fear and say, you know what, no, I can't do that today. Yeah. You don't have to, you know, necessarily give a reason every single time. But yeah, sometimes, you know, you just know that that's not going to be uplifting or that's not headed in the direction that you want to go. So you have to make the wise decision to say no. And then the other thing that I would say is, you know, how can you kind of start to distance yourself from certain relationships would be to surround yourself with people that you want to be with.
There we go.
That's kind of what I was getting at earlier. I don't know if I made this connection or not. If, you know, you're choosing to spend more time with people that are headed in the direction that you want to go and that you're pushing for life, then naturally you're going to have to sacrifice some time elsewhere. And so that can be, you know, that may be time with some of these other relationships that you shouldn't be spending as much time with.
Yeah, it gives you a reason, you know? Like there's no point in emptying your schedule if there's nothing to fill it with.
Yes, exactly. And it's hard, you know, because we want to love everybody, and, you know, Jesus didn't spend time with only perfect people. Obviously, he didn't change the world doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we can be well equipped to make a difference in people's lives if we're not being filled up by other people as well, right?
Totally. And I want to point this out as well. You know, kind of with this idea of just like friendship that are maybe holding us back. I think we have a tendency, I know I do this all the time, but we think that we have our friends, but really we've been spending a lot more time with other people whom, you know, in our heads we wouldn't consider to be our friends. But when you look at your schedule, if you were to really look back and look at back at the last month or so, or a couple of months, you were spending a lot more time with these other people who you know aren't really that good influence, rather than your actual friends who you're just kind of in the group chat with, and you just kind of catch up with eventually. But, you know, you haven't actually taken some time out of your schedule, you know, taken the evening that you could be studying or something, and spending time with them and really, you know, edifying each other and investing into that relationship. And that's hard. That's a hard thing just to really look back on and just to say, oh, I haven't actually been doing as well as I can. But
no, I think you hit on some really good points there, and I really like what you said. For me, being intentional in relationships and like having intentional time with somebody, I don't know if, you know, you've taken the love language test, but my two love languages are touch is my number one, and touch is my number one, but then quality time is my second one.
Right,
and they're pretty much the same level. I think I was like a 9 and a 10 on those two. And then the other ones weren't even close. Like,
wow.
Not even close. So quality time is something that's really big for me. And I don't necessarily need time in a group. Yeah, I like hanging out with groups, and I like hanging out with a lot of people, and it can be good to catch up with a lot of people that you haven't seen. But for me, there's just something meaningful about spending quality time with like one or two or, maybe three people that you're really close with. And I think that being really intentional with your relationships can kind of help you weed out, what are the bad relationships, and then determine what are your or maybe not bad relationships, definitely are bad relationships, but it may just be a relationship that like I said is not allowing you to grow.
Right.
And so if you're intentional with that, you'll kind of sort out what relationships are helping you and what relationships may be holding you back a little bit. So I think being intentional is a really good one there.
Totally, yeah. And before we move on, I just really got to point out what you said. Like, it's not necessarily just bad relationships, just relationships that aren't, progressing you into this next stage of your life that God wants you to go in.
Right, definitely.
That's so good.
So we've kind of touched on it a tiny bit, but where do we find these quality friendships and these quality relationships? How do we find these?
Yeah, totally. I'm a church guy. I grew up in the church. I was quite literally raised in the church. My family was there every single Sunday. I was born and raised in the kids ministry. First things ever were at the church. I got in trouble at the church. So naturally, just with my background, I cannot emphasize the church enough. And I think the church is for everybody, any age group, any season of life, single, married, divorced, wherever you're at, the church is where it's at. And small groups in the church, it's this really beautiful thing where it kind of turns the rows of the congregation, and it kind of puts them in circles,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just saying, if you're looking for some faith, just look down the aisle and just kind of find somebody and just say, hey, let's hang out sometime, doing anything after service. Hey, you want to go out to eat or something? I'm telling you, man, just there's something really special takes place when two believers are gathered and just hang out. And I think it's a great opportunity, especially if it's somebody who you don't know, just to kind of start over. They don't know anything about you. Yeah. You don't know anything about them, just kind of start over, And it doesn't have to be all spiritual, I know you guys met in the church, and
I think it's great to have God-centered conversations, and like have God be present and on your mind, but you don't have to, you can talk about sports or, whatever makes you guys tick. It doesn't have to be, yeah, that's awesome. Talk about God. That's a good thing. Talk about your faith and your relationships. I think there's something powerful in our stories. That's why I wanted to start this podcast. And you can find people in the church that have all sorts of different interests that, you would never think. There's plenty of sports nuts in the church. There's plenty of like outdoorsmen in the church. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are really artsy and talented in ways that make no sense to me whatsoever because I'm not artsy, I'm not musically inclined, like that area just doesn't speak to me. And so, I've connected with some people I mentioned multiple times in this podcast, like I want to go to medical school. I've connected with multiple doctors that go to our church. So yeah, I totally agree with you that the church is a great place and there's something for everybody there.
Absolutely. But yeah, I would say, the church is a place to start, but like, don't just limit yourself to the church as well, I'd say that's a first place, but like, if you're a student, get involved in some extracurriculars. You'd find, some really amazing people out there, especially any sort of a ministry or campus ministry. I'll be honest, I didn't really join a campus ministry until this past year, and I have made some of my closest friends of all time just simply by going, and by checking out some of their events and everything.
Absolutely.
So,
no, I think that's a good point too. I wasn't necessarily just going to say the church because you can go to church every Sunday and you can not meet anybody new or, really make any meaningful connections. And that somewhat that falls on the church. Like sometimes, I'm not going to lie, like some churches have issues with that. Some people at church, don't want to connect, so it goes both ways. It falls on both people. But I think, if you're looking for a specific kind of friendship and relationship, I hit on it earlier, like, I hang out with med students because I want to go to med school and that help my studying improve. Yeah. This year I joined a B group. That was a big step of, kind of faith. Even though I've gone to VFC kind of off and on while I'm home from college for almost 9 years, I've been attending VFC. So it's not like, you know, it was totally a foreign thing to me, but it's still, I didn't have a ton of friends at VFC or like close friends before, you know, jumping into V Group and volunteering with Fox, and getting plugged in on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
You know, like I've made some friendships there. Just the 2 Sundays that I've got up on stage to read a couple Bible verses, you know, because
you're killed it. Yeah.
I'm there spending time, you know, with these people in the church. You know, a little bit you've got to go seek it out in the smaller communities, especially among your big churches. You know, so find a small group, find a place where you can volunteer.
The thing about you is that like you were looking.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I truly believe if you're looking for something, you will find it. Whatever you are looking for, you will find. But you have to be intentionally looking for it. You know, God says, if you seek me, you will find me. And I say, you know, if you're looking for godly people, godly friendships, you know, people who are going to build you up, you will find them. But you got to be looking. You got to be looking in places that you might be a little bit uncomfortable. You got to step out. You might have to sign up for, you know, grip classes or for the V Group, you know, or you might have to take some time out of your schedule to start volunteering.
You don't just have to meet people at church and at church events. You can meet people that are going to help you grow in life and like get to your goals. If you've got career goals, find people that have similar career goals. Yeah. But don't just find people that are like ruthless and want to get for whatever. Find people that do it by being kind to other people and like just genuinely want to help other people and better themselves kind of along the way, you know? So you can do that with career goals. You can do that with hobbies. I mean, you know, there's so many places where you can go and find people that if, you know, you're into like the nature thing, like I like to hike and stuff like that, you know, you can reach out to people that like to do that kind of thing and make quality friendships there. So there's so many different ways that you can do it, but it's all about that taking the step, going outside your comfort zone, you know, and not being afraid to step out. What holds us back from making changes with friends?
I think my gut response is I think we're kind of afraid of people seeing who we really are, you know. I know sometimes when, you know, I think that's part of just being human is connecting with somebody else. It's always a risk. I believe, you know, there is a risk associated with every type of relationship ever. You know, there's a risk, you know, in theory, if you really think about it, they could bring you great harm and really cause you a lot of stress. You know, they could turn around and really hurt you. But, you know, you're trusting and you're taking a risk that they're not going to do that when you open up to them. And again, I already said this, but like, I think it's refreshing to find somebody new who doesn't know you in that sense, you know, because they don't know you. You know, they don't remember, you know, you when you were a kid when you screwed up at this, or you when you were in high school and you were the star at this, or you were the bottom tier of this. You know, they just met you, so it gives you an opportunity just for a fresh start. You know, you don't just completely disregard your past. You know, you don't just become a new person. You know, you're just looking forward. You know, and you use this friendship as an opportunity just to fall into something new.
So I think for me, and this is kind of just like what I struggle with this, just in general, but what holds me back from making the change or stepping out into new friendships is just, you know, what are other people going to think of me? Like, what are my current friends going to think of my new friends? What are my new friends going to think of my old friends? Yeah. You know, if I'm spending less time with my friends that I've known through high school and college, what are they going to think of me not spending as much time with them? You know, and like new people, I'm a pretty open person. I don't mind sharing, you know, quite a bit about myself. But then sometimes I leave and I say, you know, why did I say those things? Are they going to like me? Are they going to judge me for what I said?
Yeah. Because once you open up those doors, you can't close them, you know?
Yeah, right. So I think the thing that held me back the most, and the thing that sometimes continues to hold me back, I'm much more aware of it and have really worked with God on this the past 2 years. But like I have had some insecurity in just like what other people think of me. In order for me to make new friends, I kind of had to get over that. Yeah. So that was definitely something that held me back. But I think, you know, the other thing that holds a lot of people back that we've kind of hit on again throughout answering these other questions that we had is just like people, they're comfortable with their friends. Yeah. You get comfortable there. It's taking that step that is just like, you know, is it worth it? What's on the other side? There's unknown over there. Come on now. I know what's over here and it's comfortable and I want to stay here. And I'm a big believer, the whole reason why I started this podcast is because I'm a big believer that life begins outside your comfort zone. Yeah. Right? Like we all have our bubbles. we don't grow inside our bubbles, but they're hard to leave, right? And so I think, like I said, just being comfortable with who we know and where we're at with our relationships versus, I'm going to step out and I'm going to invest in somebody new.
Yeah. I know our pastor was talking about this, that, the research was kind of talking about humans and how we would, humans tend to lean on the side of being in a bad situation, a bad lifestyle, something that's not good, but that they're aware of, that they see what's coming the next day and the next day. That if you're in a bad relationship or in some sort of a bad living situation or something, but they're okay with being there because they're used to it. Versus crossing over into the unknown, into what might be better, just simply because it's unknown and we don't know. So we would rather take the bad over the unknown. We'd rather not roll the dice. I just think that's kind of crazy, and I think that explains a lot of how so many people throughout the years have the exact same friends over and over and over again. Their Facebook list has list of friends has not increased at all. The contacts in their phone have not increased. They're not meeting new people. They're not networking with other people at all. They're just with the same old friends. And I'm telling you, man, like, we always talk about New Year's resolutions. 2020 is going to be the year to reinvent, Yet you're hanging around with the same people over and over again. You're not going to see any change,
So while we were talking about this, a verse that I really like came to me. And in 1 Corinthians 2 says that what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love him, right?
Wow.
So with this whole idea of like stepping out, you don't know, maybe you step out and you start volunteering and you meet, your wife or your husband there, or
could happen,
maybe you meet your future business partner and, you guys come together and you don't know, maybe you meet your best friend, the best man that's going to be at your wedding. You don't know. Maybe you meet somebody who's going to give you an opportunity that you never could have imagined. And God has those plans for you, but unless we're willing to step when we hear him, we don't get to experience that.
Absolutely.
So it's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy to step outside your comfort zone. Like I said, we like our bubbles. We like to stay where we're at. Like you said, you just get used to it.
Yeah.
But it can be worth it if we're going with a clear mind. Right?
Absolutely.
So, and I think that's what's important, is we want to have wisdom when we go, and we want to have faith to take those steps.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed the episode today. If you did, feel free to subscribe to us on iTunes or YouTube, or follow us on Spotify so that you don't miss out on our weekly episodes. Also, Ezra and I would really appreciate it if you would share this with anybody that you think may enjoy this podcast or benefit from the conversation. Lastly, Ezra and I would love to connect with you, so if you have comments, feedback, or questions for us, we've got our email linked in the description, so we would love for you to shoot those our way. Or if you're listening by way of YouTube, go ahead and comment down below. Ezra and I hope that you all have a great week as you go and love God and love people.